SCP-035, the anomalous mask made famous in SCP Containment Breach, is known to take full control over the host organism that wears it. The mask is very manipulative and takes pleasure in taking control over people, and has on more than one occasion expressed interest in SCP-682. But what would happen if we granted its wish? In this SCP Exploration episode, we explore what would happen if we put SCP-035 on SCP-682. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel with notifications on so you don't miss any of our upcoming Exploring SCP videos, as soon we are testing another very famous SCP with SCP-035. Before we conduct this experiment, we first need to ask ourselves whether the mask could even possess the indestructible lizard in the first place. In SCP-035's wiki entry, it is stated that the mask only affects human subjects, and tests with animals have had no anomalous results. There is one exception, however. The mysterious mask can also possess anything that has a humanoid shape, such as mannequins, corpses, and statues. But what about the indestructible lizard? There are two ways to look at this. SCP-682's physiology is similar to a lizard, hence its nickname, so SCP-682 could be considered to be an animal. And as we know, the mask doesn't affect animals. But on the other hand, the indestructible lizard is sapient and can speak to humans. And as we already mentioned, 035 can possess human-shaped objects as well. This implies that the mask doesn't necessarily require a human carrier, but merely something that resembles something sapient. So from this viewpoint, our SCP-682 and mask experiment should work. So how do we look at this? It appears that both options are plausible. There is one small hint, however, that seems to answer our question. Let's not forget that 035 has explicitly expressed interest in the indestructible lizard. The mask wouldn't be interested in 682 if it knew it couldn't be worn by it, meaning that our experiment would indeed work. So we've established that the indestructible lizard can more than likely wear the mysterious mask. But SCP-682 has incredible resistance in all aspects. Surely it can resist a porcelain mask, right? Well, turns out 682's mental aspect is quite a weak point. If we go through the SCP-682 termination log, we see that the indestructible lizard has had its behavior affected by other SCPs on more than one occasion. As discussed in our SCP Friendships video, SCP-999 made it repeat the word happy and roll on its back like a puppy, and SCP-053 made 682 remain calm during the test. So despite being physically very powerful, it appears that SCP-682 is very vulnerable to mind-affecting anomalies. SCP-035 is a master at possessing other creatures and manipulation, and because of this, we believe the mask would successfully take control over the lizard. Alright, we know that SCP-682 can more than likely be controlled by the manipulative mask. But why is SCP-035 so interested in the lizard in the first place? If we check out the mask's wiki entry, we see that it secretes a highly corrosive and degenerative viscous liquid from its eye and mouth holes that causes all matter that comes into contact with the liquid to slowly decay. This effect is not only present when the mask is in containment, but also when SCP-035 has a host organism or object. Which is why all humans that wear the mask slowly decompose until they are turned into a mummified corpse. This effect means that SCP-035 cannot permanently possess an organism and must switch hosts periodically. But as we know, SCP-682 is an anomaly with incredible adaptation capabilities, so it would more than likely survive and adapt to SCP-035's corrosive substance. This means that if we were to put SCP-035 on the indestructible lizard, we would, in theory, allow the mask to find a permanent host. And not only a permanent host, but also a very powerful and destructive one. SCP-682 is one of the most dangerous SCPs in the SCP Foundation, and has up to date survived every termination attempt against it thus far, so it is understandable why the mask wishes to possess it and not some ordinary D-class. So let's suppose that we allow 035 to control SCP-682. What would this SCP combination do, and would we be able to separate the two from one another? Firstly, let's read SCP-035's wiki entry to get an idea of its general behavior. As stated in the SCP wiki, the mask is very intelligent and charismatic, but highly manipulative, capable of forcing sudden and profound changes to an interviewer's psychological state. SCP-035 is also quite sadistic, prompting some to commit suicide and transforming others into near-mindless servants with linguistic persuasion alone. It is clear that SCP-035 isn't used to having powerful host organisms, as it usually employs persuasion to cause damage. Because of this, we doubt that the newly formed combo would go on a killing spree and try to eliminate our whole civilization. SCP-035 is too intelligent for this, and doesn't take joy in violence, but instead in clever manipulation, and would rather breach containment and begin toying with ordinary citizens. It could force people to play games for their lives, such as in the movie Saw.
I want to play a game.
Or simply persuade people to kill each other. The power of its host organism, SCP-682, would probably only be fully utilized when the MTF units arrive for recontainment. In general, though sapient, the indestructible lizard isn't very intelligent, and more often than not relies on brute force. But as we know, SCP-035 has scored in the 99th percentile of intelligence and aptitude tests administered to it, so combining the raw power of 682 and the intelligence of 035 would be something scary. The newly formed combo can not only fight off the MTF personnel, but also outsmart them when necessary. Where SCP-682 can't control its hatred and desire to kill, SCP-035 can be methodical, and choose to hide to avoid being spotted by the SCP security personnel when in an unfavorable situation. And if the mask-wearing lizard is cornered, the subject can use telepathy, something we know 035 is capable of, to simply convince the MTF personnel to attack each other, or let it escape altogether. Which is why we believe the newly formed SCP combination would be extremely difficult to recontain. Our best bet would be to somehow physically remove the mask from the indestructible lizard, so we can deal with it separately, something that, though very difficult, is definitely manageable in the SCP universe. Now that we've created this deadly combo, let's think about how we can neutralize it. As previously stated, SCP-035 is not only very manipulative, but also capable of telepathy, so having someone physically walk up to 682 and remove it would never work. And not to mention that using the indestructible lizard, the mask can simply fight off any attackers. Our best bet would be to use high-caliber ammunition such as sniper rifles or tank shells to either destroy the mask or shoot it off the lizard's head. But this is where SCP-682's capabilities could prove detrimental to our recontainment efforts. Let's not forget that when faced with SCP-173, 682 grew hundreds of pairs of eyes on its body so as not to lose sight of the anomalous statue. And when those eyes were shot out with sniper rifles, the lizard grew transparent armored caps over them, which prevented the MTF personnel from damaging its vision anymore. Due to 682's regenerative capabilities and 035's intelligence, it is likely that the combination grows some sort of armor over the mask in advance, in order to protect itself from being taken off or damaged. So what have we done here? We've taken perhaps the most powerful SCP and combined it with one of the smartest anomalies, and allowed them to become inseparable. Yes, 682 would more than likely still be affected by hydrochloric acid, so we would still be able to temporarily neutralize it, but having permanently upgraded 682's intellectual properties and gifted it with telepathy, we are left with an extremely dangerous combination. SCP-035 knows this very well and would take full advantage of this if given an opportunity. Which is why we can only hope that the mask doesn't breach containment using a D-class host and walk right into SCP-682's containment chamber. This concludes our video on the SCP-682 vs SCP-035 experiment. So what do you think? Could we remove SCP-035 off of the indestructible lizard? And which other SCPs would you like to see us test with SCP-035? Let us know in the comments below. Please make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy this type of content, as we have many more interesting exploring SCP videos coming up. And as always, we will see you in the next video.